All right, let's get going on some fantasy console development. I'm Sean Rakowski, the Code Mage. Welcome back. I'm building a fantasy console inspired by the TI-83 calculator. Written in C# using MonoGame and scripted with IronPython. So that's where we're at. I have got some basic menuing working. Oh, and of course, as soon as I start my stream, I'm getting a call. And I will decline that. So to this point, I've implemented, I believe, all of the system commands that I have listed here, as well as all of these home screen commands. I think in the last stream, we made it so that I could change the display. I do have a smaller or bigger resolution. Today, I think what I might want to do is get this editor working. Currently, right now, all this does is just kind of print out the screen and then brings you back to the home screen. But I think I want to get the editor working so I can start making code changes or write programs in the actual editor. Now, if you watch the previous streams, I still want to have this concept that you actually load up or can edit things through a web interface, but I'm going to add that much later. That was just my prototyping process there. So let's see here. So this, now I'm kind of dog fooding some of this a little bit by making it so that the actual code that I'm writing here, which is in Python, not C#, is what runs the baseline operating system. So think of the C# version stuff being kind of like the hardware and some basic functions that interact with the hardware, and then everything else is run in Python. So right now you can see editing is get display resolution. It sets to be higher because it is a bit going to be a bit difficult to edit. You see it switches it there. Edit programs in that small of a resolution. One thing I do need to figure out too is how to make it so that I don't know if you can see this, if it comes through on the stream or not, but the depending on what size you have the window, the text that I'm rendering comes through like ugly sometimes. So like there's not too bad. But I think I might need to maybe make the virtual size different or something. I don't know. There's something I got to do to make it so that this doesn't happen. It only happens on this large resolution. The smaller ones that are, big enough, it doesn't happen with those. So I don't know what the deal is. So if I'm on that size, there's no... Maybe if I made it real small. Yeah, it happens if it's really small. But there's at some point it actually just kind of doesn't have the problem anymore. But on a larger one it does. So I don't know. I guess we'll figure that out. But anyway, so I've got to make the editor here, and I think I'm going to need to add in some additional bits that I don't have, some additional commands. One of them is the idea that, so you launch the editor for this, and there has to be a cursor that kind of can walk around the screen, and then I can modify stuff, delete stuff. So it's got to interpret commands as I move around, and I don't think we've got that capability yet. So, yeah. So now there's certain keys that do render as text input, I found out in MonoGame, and then other ones that I can kind of tie into for get key type stuff. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. First thing I'm gonna do is kind of strip this edit stuff back, because again, this is just this way. Earth. Yeah, that doesn't work. You know, so how this works is it reads the program, then it splits it on the new line character into lines. And then this PRGM is currently my, think of it as like storing the actual program contents. Will not end. So I don't think that this is quite what I'm going to be doing is continually drawing it. I feel like I've worked on this before, though. I'm going to take a look and see how I started working on this in the version that I put together a long time ago. So there's like an edit, proc edit. So this put the thing there at the top. Oh, no, this is... This doesn't look right. Yeah, maybe I actually didn't get too far on this, or maybe I didn't save that up. Yep, so there's no free lunch here. I'm gonna have to figure out exactly how this works. So it's kind of like, in order to do this, there's a buffer, which is this array here. So I have to be able to move the cursor around, which is something I don't really have here currently. The concept of the cursor's been kind of hidden. If you look at the actual current implementation, there isn't, other than when I'm reading in, when I'm creating a new one like this. Then it goes through that, but there's no concept of a cursor here, and within the create, what I'm doing is a read. Let's see. It's just grabbing input there, and then it runs create program with that. You know, obviously if I don't enter any value in, this is not really going to work. It'll probably blow up, but I'll put in stuff later to fix that. So logically what we need to do is you've got an array of lines. You have to be able to move around in them using the arrow keys or whatever. You've only got a certain subset displayed to the screen at any given time based on the display resolution. So theoretically, I don't need to necessarily have a cursor here. Like I do when I do input. I mean, I need a cursor, but it can be driven in this side of things, I think. So let's have the concept of a cursor. And it'll be at 0, 0 in Python land. Really, I could put this in a class or whatever. But I'm going to go hard mode to start. Not hard mode, but naive mode is maybe a way to put it. And I'm not going to... So the idea here is that based on, you know, where I'm at, I can kind of push down or up the... and we'll keep it at 10 just to cover it, but based on my cursor's Y, it should always be kind of like, not centered, but so if I go beyond 10, it needs to kind of adjust up the starting point. It's like start. Go like 3, and then if start lines is less than or equal to 0, then we'll just set it back to itself. I think I can do this in Python just fine. Or set to 0. And then the end will always be or that's the count. So it'll always be 10. Now, so if I go down, let's say to 10, it's going to start at 7. I don't really want it to start going down unless I go beyond some sort of threshold. So this really should be a function of where I'm at. So if we think about it like there's a there's like a range that I have. And the range will start at some value. And if I get too close to that range starting value, it moves up. If I get too far away, it goes down. Starts at, I don't know, something like that. So it starts at 0. And then so this is just like range starts at there. That gives me my lines. So we'll clear out get key. Now that's non-blocking. So what's going to happen is that it will loop here. But I want to wait until I actually get a key input. But it's not just key input. So it's like if I press the, you know, if I press a key, I'll get the key code. There's also the idea of getting text input. Oof, this is hard to think about, which is why I wanted to just push it to an external editor. And it might be easier if I actually didn't dogfood this one. But, I mean, I could have an edit program that runs in C# land, because then there's just more access to other things that I can look at. Also, I wouldn't have to expose the idea of reading a program and saving a program like that, which I think I have already exposed. Well, I'd maybe not save, but read. So I could get rid of that in terms of what's exposed. And change it to, or actually, you know what I'll do is change it to edit program. Yeah. So instead of doing all of this stuff, I'm going to copy out of here. It'll just be run edit prgm. Yeah, look at me not dog fooding. So we'll split that on the new line character into string array. Program lines equals that. So now there has to be the concept of a cursor, and it runs across this. Which is different than the cursor that's in the actual... Well, it's similar to the cursor that's in the actual home screen, but it's different in that, like, yeah, I don't know. I've got to think. This is tricky. I'm just gonna code it the way I think it needs to be coded, and then we'll go from there. So I'll just kind of contain this around here once. Record cursor. Actually, this would be your cursor here would be in a line and then a column. So just like if you think down here, it's line and then, yeah, column. And then there's a character, but yeah, anyways. So is equal to a new edit cursor at line 0, column 0. Actually, I'll just say, well, this is true. What I'm doing here is just observing how the cursor works in Visual Studio here. So you see if I go to the top, it starts to go up. If I get to the very bottom, it starts to scroll down. Interesting. Like, as it approaches, it'll do that, but... So kind of like the home screen, there's going to be... I will keep track of this last key up. Let's just see if we can get this working. Which gets set by window key up. In fact, I'm just going to keep all of this pretty close to each other. I might end up extracting this at some point, refactoring this all out. So we'll clear that out as you start. So now it's not just the last key up that I want to be concerned with. That's only for like moving around. So if you think about it, if I'm sitting here typing, I want that input to come. So just like the home screen here too, I want to have an input buffer as well. What is that? Graphics screen. Oh yeah, I gotta get that eventually too. And I also need the callback for that as well. And so just like that, I need to register those. You know what? Keep these really small in here. This one we want the program registry dot. So I might actually make that, instead of program registry, I'll break that up into like editor at some point probably. Now, one thing I could do is not use this text input, because I think key up might give me everything I need. It's just I was ignoring it on the home screen. I'm going to go down that route first, because if you look, E actually will contain the key, but the, I think, oh shoot, I thought there was a character code that came with it too. I might be wrong. Yeah, I was wrong. Okay, so I will need the other one. Might be on the text input that I'm thinking. that it actually has that. Go. Okay. So that will pump into last key up into my input buffer. So I don't know why that's all. Anyways. Create programs directory if it does not exist. Read all files. That does not need to happen. So what would be really good here is to have like a, instead of an edit, well, the edit cursor I need as well, because that's just keeping track of where I'm moving up and down. But the code itself needs to be split into a class. So like code, whatever. I need the concept of being able to modify those, which isn't great from an array perspective. So we'll go like, can you insert on a string builder at a specific location? Yeah, you can get insert at a particular index. Inserts the string representation of a bool. Oh no, there's just a bunch of them that you can do, but yeah. So what I want to do is have a list of string builders in here, I think. So list, it'd be the list, each record in there would be a particular line, and then the string builder themselves would be the, yeah. So this would be our code. So when we create the code editor, and this can actually probably house the cursor as well. So let's just keep that idea going to private code edit cursor. Code equals new. Why is that getting mad? Oh, why is that a string? Derp. Let's go. Interesting. And we will seed this by doing code.select new string builder. With the line. Okay. And then we've got the cursor. Starts at line 0, column 0. Okay. So then here we will create a code editor and pass that in. I suppose I could do the split. Anyways. So we'll clear every state here. So that'll come in as we go. Are we really tracking that every time in the other one? Or is it question mark? Yeah, it is question mark, so this is nullable. So we want that to be null too. We only really want to receive this stuff once we start execution. Which is also a little bit different than, well, anyways. I could do this too, so it's similar. Key up buffer. Okay. So we'll do that. Input buffer equals. Then when we're done with everything, we'll clear those out in reverse order. And key up buffer equals null as well. Okay. So basically what we're going to do is run through and process anything that's in our key up buffer that is a specific control key we want to have. So the arrow keys that'll move the cursor around, I believe our page up, page down, those things come in that way. So those will get processed first within a loop. And then what will happen is that we will so those will go first, and then we'll go through and process any input in a loop. So well, let's just get going. So while key up buffer dot any var key equals key up buffer dot dec, if key, or we'll switch it. So if the key case left, then what we'll do is our code editor dot cursor left right, cursor right. We'll go up and down on it. Up, down, left, right. Okay. Another thing we need here is not just the cursor, it's the range of lines that we're actually able to see at any given time, as I said before. And that actually is moved by shifting the cursor around. So let's just keep that in here as well. Visible range. Oh yeah, these are immutable by default, which means records are probably not going to be the best idea for them. I wish the syntax existed for that as well. Well, we'll just leave it like that. And then the visible range will be a class as well. And that visible range will start at a position top. And and this should actually end up being a constant, really. But it might not be, so let's just leave it at that. So when we create our cursor, we'll go from line 0. Well, we'll keep that the same. We'll just make a constructor. We'll call this edit range instead. Or start at 0, and we'll go to 10, just to get started. Line and column. Lint? No. Line. Column. Okay. And I think it's about time I move this out to its own. Own class. Or not class, file. Oh, oh, come on. X goes in here. Okay, so we're gonna have keep track of the editing in there, or process the editing in there, but the actual editor is still gonna exist in here, or the control flow will probably still exist in here for now. We'll maybe change that later, but So we read text, we get the code editor. And then we're going to feed cursor up, cursor down. So if cursor up, then what we would do is cursor dot line minus minus. If the cursor dot line is less than 0, then we want to clamp it at 0. So or we keep it the same. Oops. Equals cursor dot line. Now, one other thing that can happen here is if the edit range, if it moves above the top of the edit range, then the edit range has to go up as well. So it's if the edit range dot top is equal to, and so if the cursor dot line is less than edit range dot top, then we will go to cursor dot line. Otherwise it will go to back to itself. So that should do that. Now this is kind of the opposite. So cursor dot line plus plus. If the cursor dot line is greater than the code dot lines, and this would be count. Or greater than or equal to, then it would equal the code dot count. Otherwise it sets it back to itself. And this can edit the range as well. Now, interestingly enough, too, that just because it's on a single, or it's a line, doesn't mean it's like with wrapping, because it did wrap in the original calculator. I guess I could have a scroll, a left scroll. So I might need this range to not only indicate, you know, which the top, but it also might need to indicate the left. So this could be, this count would actually be like rows, and then the other one would be columns. But we'll come back to that. Okay. So, but the edit range here, if the top is equal to the cursor dot line is greater than the edit range dot top plus the edit range rows, such then the cursor dot line is greater than the edit range top plus the edit range rows, then I need to increase the value to cursor dot line minus the edit range dot rows. Otherwise, I just set it back to the edit range dot top. Okay, so that should handle cursor up and down. Yeah. So cursor left, if I go beyond the length of the string, because you always have to include the cursor to be at the end of the string plus 1 or whatever, because, or the total length of the string. So it'll be actually at the length of the string plus 1 index, is how far it can go before it wraps. So, but this is left. So this is if I go back here. So what I would do is say cursor dot column minus minus if cursor dot column is less than 0. Then what I would need to do is take the line and go back 1. So it'd be like going, essentially what it'd be doing is like cursoring up and then setting it to the very end of the line. So it'd be like the same operation as a cursor up plus an end. Let's put that cursor end in here too, because we will do that. So that'd be like the end key if you press the end key. Void. Now what this will do is if I'm at the very, very top, at the very end, if I go up, then nothing happens. It only happens if I'm like here, and then I press, oh, you know what, cursor up, or sorry, not cursor up, left, then it goes to the end. But if I'm at the if I'm at the home and I go over, obviously there's nowhere to go. So this should be limited to, so like if cursor dot column is 0 and the cursor dot line equals 0, then I just don't do anything. That will solve that problem. So cursor end, what that does is says take the current, set the cursor dot column position equal to the line of code that I'm on. Code, and then it would be the line I'm on, which would be code. Sorry. Oh yeah, cursor dot line. And then I would take just that length. That should do it. Yeah. So now if I go right past the end, which is the next one, the only case it doesn't do anything is if I'm on the very last row. So kind of like the other one, what I'll do is say if the cursor dot column is at the end, which is here, and the cursor dot line is equal to the end of the last line, so would equal code dot length or count minus 1, and at the very last index. Then I'll just return. Otherwise, my cursor dot row or column plus if cursor dot column is greater than or equal to the, greater than the code dot count, or code at cursor line length. Then what I need to do is cursor down should bring me to the next line. I do need to think when I cursor up and down here too, that, you know, if I'm beyond what the line ahead of me goes, I really can't just go up and expect it. It should really go to the end of the line above me, or it needs to go in the same position or to the end or something like that. So like here, all of these have the same length or more, so I'm fine there, but it has to stay within that range, so I've got to think about adding those in here as well. But cursor down, and then I want to do go to the home, so which what it will do is it'll set the cursor.column equal to 0. Okay. So when I go and do this operation and I set the line up 1, I'm going to change this to be the cursor line is greater than the count. Actually, it should have been a minus this whole time. It has to stay in its own row. So I go down 1, it says, oh, you're actually beyond now the last index. I need to bring it back within that range. But the other thing I need to do is bring it to make sure that the column that I'm on is still within the range. So if I'm like, if cursor.column is greater than the new code at the cursor line dot length, then I need to bring it to the back to the length. And I need to do the same on the up. So so I really didn't need to switch this to that. So theoretically, I should be able to, move around the code now in that cursor column on row in row. Okay. So back in our actual registry here, where we're going through, we can do cursor up, down. We have home. And then an end key as well. We'll probably have the page up and insert those as well at some point in time. But we want to make sure these all work. So that keeps going through there. For now, we're just going to clear our input buffer. Or, sorry, yeah, our input buffer, yeah. And we'll go through that. So, the other thing we need to do then is to actually draw our text input. And including our cursor. And our cursor, I think, was just drawn by flipping the, yeah. So to do that, we'll do a draw first before we actually edit the content. And I'm going to include a small sleep in here just to keep it so it's not too bad right off the bat. So this will go and run a... what did I name this? Sys or something? Context sys? No. Is it computer? Home screen? No, I mean, I could make this its own thing, but anyways, output at 0, 0. Then what we need to do is say, see, what I need to do is actually take this whole... What I need to do is, at this point in time, or soon, not right now, is to take the actual character cell buffer stuff out of this home screen and kind of move it into its own class again. Because I don't think the home screen itself is a great abstraction over that, because I might want to do more complicated things like I do want to do here, and to use these commands. Now I can extend the commands that I can't, and just not expose them to Python, which is fine. But anyways, so what I need to do here is get so it'd be like visible lines equals code editor dot get visible lines. And what this will do is it will take our code and it will skip the first based off of our edit range rows. And then it will, so if it's 1, it's going to skip 1 row. Then it will take the edit ranges, or sorry, it's going to skip the top and then take the rows, which will give us all visible. Now that's going to include stuff that's from a column perspective is outside the range that we want, but then it has to select those to string. which in this case, for the string builder, I should be able to say, give me a range from it, but well, actually I get each string, and then each string I could go through and say, hey, give me do the same thing, so take the columns, whatever. So I get visible lines, and then for each var line equals, no, in visible lines, I would go hs dot display line. That's a new line character. So it'll actually switch the new line each time. Or no, well that, yeah, that's what I want to do. And then I need to actually highlight the cursor itself, much like when we're doing a read. So, so this whole cursor blinking thing too, that's going to be kind of interesting. So I'm going to try this once. Public void render cursor. And I'm just going to say it's always on for now. And I think I might have a set cursor as well. Yeah. And row and column. So we'll do that, and then that will give us what we need over here in the editor. So for each line we do that, then we say set cursor to the row, which should be our code editor dot cursor call oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I want on the code editor to add a, you know what? I will just expose the cursor, why not? And yeah, somebody could technically mutate it outside of that, but whatever. I just want to get this working. Dot cursor dot line. No, that's not exactly what I want. Interesting enough, because that could be, you know, in a totally different spot of the buffer than what I want to see on the line itself. I need to do like a mutation. So let me flip that back to being private. Okay, and really what I want to do here then is to have a get cursor position or something like that. Just like I have get visible lines. I need to have like a get, which has to take into account the editable range. Public, and we'll just do this as a point for now. Get cursor position. Oh, no, don't want to do that. I want to do X and E. Okay. So in this case, it would be the where our X would be our cursor dot line, no, column. So that's true for now. But then this would be our cursor dot line. Minus the top. So if we were on line 3 and we had 2 lines to display, we would start at line 1 or row 1. Or yeah. Okay. So we'll do it like that. What else do I need to do here? Well, let's see what's going to blow up if we go into edit something right now. Something will inevitably blow up. So I'm a little surprised that the new lines are coming through on the split like that. So I don't technically need to include this, apparently. So the cursor isn't displaying the way I'd want it to. Oh, I need to do just cursor, render cursor. Yeah, render cursor, whatever. So the cursor position also has to be offset by 1, but looks like my moving around the screen is working as I expected. A little slow because of the thread sleep that I have in there right now. And it's also going to but if I do that, you see the whole gleamness there. So that it only happens if I actually execute something. So what we do here is add a wait to say while keybuffer.any, while there isn't any keys, and key input buffer not any, then just do a sleep. So wait for input, then go and process the input. like that. This needs to be like that. And then I need to offset the cursor position here based on the fact that my first line is actually going to be it's going to be this. So it's doing nothing as soon as I do that. Home and interestingly enough, the end is off but set by 1 because of the new line characters or whatever that's coming in off the end there. But it's not here. So I don't know, maybe there's a space there? Could be that there's actually a space in it. But it seems to be working. The other thing I wonder if I can do is to get those, is offset the column by 1 and put those like, I wanted to keep that feel from the TI-83 calculator, so that had the colon on each line in the editor like that. So I think I could do that and then just offset this by 1 as well. Hey Scott, how you doing? You're still there. Yeah, there we go. And home. Figure out the cursor blink eventually, but so the next thing I want to do is to make it so that it should blow up. Ooh, never mind. It actually created an empty. I suppose it would be dot whatever. I'm just surprised it didn't blow up, honestly. I suppose it just the value without the extension. Or with just the extension. Yeah. Ooh, ick. Okay. Well, that's kind of neat. So there's no, I didn't encode in any way to escape from these other than just selecting it. So the question is when I'm actually editing this stuff, how do I exit the editor? I suppose I could have the escape key do that. So and that would be the, I can't break because I am in a loop, so I have to do, and I'm going to switch to boot. You enjoy your PS5, Scott? Oh, you left. Never mind. here. So I need to include some special ones in here. That aren't processed by the key up. So if it's a carriage return or a new line, which treated the same in terms of how this gets processed, I think. Then I need to tell the code editor to new line. And to do that process, then it does is to take the current code line and anything beyond it, it uses to seed the next line. So, and then it has to remove it from the original line. So think about like this here: var current code equals var current line equals code at our line index. Oops, at our cursor dot line. Now current line dot, can you remove after or something like that? Yeah, so I want to remove, well, first I need to kind of cut this out. So like substring get chunks, returns an object when you iterate through the characters. No. I'll have to convert it to a string first, won't I? Yeah, that's what I'll have to do. So I'll have to say code to move equals current line to string, and then I'll substring it from the start index being the cursor dot column. Right? Of course, the column can be greater than the length of the string itself, sitting on the end, basically. So I need to, I think that will blow up if I do that. So I could say if cursor dot column is greater than current line dot length, then I don't really do anything. Seed line is equal to an empty string. We'll go like that, or actually it'll be a string builder. Otherwise, I need to code line. I take the cursor's column. I substring it from so it's the cursor columns less than the line length. And I substring from the current column, and then I append that to the new code line. then I have to remove from the cursor column, from the string builder. Oh, I need to remove. There was one in there. Okay, so I need to remove the length of this. So then what I need to do is insert it at the index that I am on +1. Yeah, so it'd be cursor line +1, the new code line. Then I need to do a basically the same down as a cursor down operation, bringing me to the next start of the next line. Well, it's cursor down and then home. It should bring me where I want to go. Okay. Now if I did this all right, the enter key should work when I do that. So we'll kind of move it around here. Enter does. But see how these, there's no new line being drawn in there. So the split here that happens when I'm loading the code right here, I'm going to take that out. All this raw code dot split on the new line character. And I'm going to trim the end. But if there is new line, I want to leave it. Or not new line, if there is whatever. So all I want to do is remove new lines. Replace new lines with empty strings. And then do a like that. So now if I go in here, it should look all messed up. Nah, it's still doing it the same way. That's weird. I am going to take a look at what actually got loaded here. So the first line does, oh, carriage returns. So there's both new lines and character returns on these. Why did I do that? Or is that just the way it comes in? Could just be the way that the oh, it's probably doing carriage return line feed from when I edited it in Visual Studio Code. I just need to remember that for when I actually spit it out again. So I should have like a in the settings maybe what to use for the new line character. Let's see here. What was I gonna do here? Oh, I get to make it so that this always plops a new line on the end of the display. So that gives me nothing. But if I do this, yep, that works. Now if I do, I need to do the backspace key now. So if I do a backspace, go to editor.backspace. So in this case, what I need to do is either, if I'm at the start of the line, so if cursor.column equals 0, then I need to basically like remove the line and add it to the end. So I'm gonna take a quick break. My wife's calling here. All right, I'm back. Okay, so if I'm at the 0th column, then what I need to do is take the current line and append it to the previous line. If I'm at the 0th one, it doesn't matter. So basically, if this is the same for if I'm doing cursor left, these ones, I am going to just return. Now, if the column is equal to 0, which and now we know for sure the cursor line is greater than 0, then what we will do is we take the entire line, the code at the cursor.line, and we append it to the previous line. So prev line equals code at cursor line -1. We also need to know where we're going to put the cursor when we do the backspace. If you look at here, if I go to the end and then I go, the cursor is basically on the first character, or right before it, I guess is the way to say it. So it's in the last column. So I do need to keep track of where to move the cursor, or I could move the cursor right away, which is to say it would be a cursor up and then a cursor end. Then I take the, or first I get the 2 lines. Then I do previous line dot append the current line. Then I have to code dot remove the line that I was on. Then everything should be correct there. That's if I'm at the end. So otherwise, what it would be is just to remove one thing at the index of where I'm at, or rather the previous index. So it would be to take the code. Well, I'll need the line, so I'll pull that here. I'll take the line I'm on and remove at the index that I'm on, which is the cursor dot column. So if I'm at 1, well, it's actually not the column I'm on, is it? It would be the column I'm on minus 1. Because if I'm on the 0th column, then it would be, I want to go back. If I'm on 1, then I want to remove the 1 minus, which would be the 0. So I remove cursor at column minus 1 for 1 character, which then takes the whole line and shrinks it back. And then I need to, then I need to move my cursor to be on the 1. So it would be basically the same operation as cursor right. Like that. Or sorry, cursor left. Okay. Let's take a look. Make sure that backspace works all right. Yep. Pause. Moves it correctly. Perfect. All right. Now we just need to get some typing going. And then we'll have at least the baseline of what we want. We'll still need to get things like insert, delete, and some of the other niceties. And we might want to do stuff like page up, page down, and then like some augmented. If I press Control and then do arrow, how that works. And then it's whether key up. So if I have Control down, should I be going off the down or the up? Because you would be key down. I don't really know. And that might be something I need to look at, how I'm going to implement that. The control keys, or maybe I just don't implement the control keys. You know what we'll do is we'll look at, does Pico 8 implement the control keys that way in their editor? If they do, I will figure it out. Oh, they do. Alright, so I will figure that out at some point in time. Oh, what is it? Quit? Oh my gosh. End? Log out? Exit? Gosh, how do you exit this thing? Hold F4. That always works, right? So that would be the, we'll go default. Then just to make sure we're missing not missing something, if char.is control is not control, then we will do code editor dot type key text. Something like that. Now maybe this stuff should actually be in the editor, this interpretation, but okay. So to type the key next, let me say type char. What we do is we take the current line, and sorry, we get the current line, and then we do a insert at the column we're on for the index, and we put the value in. Ooh, that's not what we want. The problem is we're not also then insert that. We need to go over one. So let's edit this one. Okay, so let's write a quick program. First we'll clear home, then we will display hello world. We'll pause. We'll go pause. And then we'll display hello. Plus name. Pause. Then we'll exit. But I don't have any way to save this currently. So what I need to do is make it so that when I hit escape or whatever, that I can actually save that. So so down here, what I need to do is get the code back out. So our completed code equals. Now this is probably not going to be super great, but then what I want to do is file dot write all text to create program file name. Completed code. And all this should be is string.join with carriage return line feed the code.select line to string, and that's it. Okay, so that should write it out. So let's go ahead and try that hello world type program again. So we'll edit this, say hello display or clear home. Hello. And we'll do pause. name equals input. We'll display hello. Then we'll exit. We save that and we go back into it. It's all good. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. Oh, should put a pause there at the end of it. I did. Oh, interesting. I pressed enter, but the pause came through before. So this pause came back. I gotta figure out that's bugging the pause. No, it's because the state transitioning. Well, I could treat this like the get key. Like that. In the way that it operates. Then that would technically kind of mess up the get key. Well, would it though? No, it wouldn't. Well, it might. We could say, well, key up. What did I say? Last key up does not equal enter. Because I'm not setting it here. But the last key up should be enter when I do this. So, yeah. So I technically do need to clear it in order for this to work. You know what? That's probably fine. I think get key is a little bit tricky anyways. Sorry, I missed your comment there, Meliork. No, I'm not using, I don't think I'm using Roslyn. I'm using, at least not yet. I'm using IronPython with the DLR, and I might use it internally, but clear, okay. Yeah, it's still doing that. That pause is not being treated correctly. Interesting. I'm gonna put another pause in there just to see what happens. Yeah, so it's like it's the second pause isn't quite working the way it should. Because I'm guessing it's getting to be executed before I can actually oh no. Yeah, it's getting to execute this last key up, whatever, before I can get to the, yeah, I need to figure this out. So display runs. I wonder if I should, always sleep a second or whatever after this. So it writes out all the chars, and then it's immediately going through and executing this pause. So while my key's still down, I'm probably not getting my key up event until after. So what's happening is that the input, the key up event from when I finish off the input here, is triggering this pause because it actually. Oh no! How can it do that? Maybe it's just. Oh, it's got to be like a really crazy timing thing, maybe. Um, So my initial pause is hello world, and I press my name, Sean, enter. Now it goes back to home, even though it should be sitting there waiting in this loop. Well, I could go back to the way this was implemented and try to go off the input buffer. Actually, that wouldn't be too bad of an idea. Just get rid of this key. Is this the only place I'm using this? Oh no, I am using it here. Well, what I could do, I suppose, is have like a reset state. Where it kind of forgets about everything. And what it would do is it would say previous keyboard state equals just a empty keyboard state is default. And then current equals keyboard get state. This isn't perfect, but should work. Seriously, what the dealio? Okay, that's clearly not the problem. Maybe if I give it some time to think or to process that last keystroke. That was weird. Oh, interestingly enough too, when I'm done inputting there, I should probably clear the cursor on the home screen, or stop rendering the cursor, or blink it off. Actually, you know what I'll do? Just put this back the way it was. And then I'll add a slight weight here before I return back to try that out. It needs to be longer, apparently. So this returns back control, then displays, prints out all the characters, then comes into this pause, and then by the time that the actual state gets reset right here, current state has it up, and the previous state was down from when I entered. It's what should be happening, which surprises me that when I do this keyboard reset that I did here, that this didn't actually like fix anything. It was only until I did thread sleep for a little bit of time here that it did anything. Yeah, I mean, it's not, you know, the thing is, these calculators didn't actually run too bad, too slow or whatever, so, but that cursor's being rendered when I'm not expecting it to again. Again, it's an immediate, like, it depends on, so like this through sleeping isn't exactly the way it should be thought of. I need the concept of kind of like flushing the stream, which maybe I just get rid of the use of this keyboard thing entirely. So what I should be able to do is do something like this: input buffer dot is to just set it to a new queue, and then just sit there and wait for that enter key to be pressed. So process the buffer like this. Set the input buffer back to null. So now this theoretically should work. But I'm having a similar problem where when I come back to that home page, it's again my keyboard states getting all hosed up. So I'm thinking about just eliminating those keyboard states entirely and just using those. So I'll get rid of this keyboard transition class and just... Now, one of the, I guess, bad things about that, though, is that I think there's some cross-platform stuff that won't work if you're using the window up events, and these arrow keys definitely don't. So what I need here is the same concept as what I did on the other one, which is a key up buffer instead. So I have this last key up, but I could do this. Last key up. And then I just need to fix everything that I just broke. So, so down here, it's this kind of the same thing. MQ key. So oh yeah, this get key doesn't really quite work the way that I'd expect it to then, because this isn't a you know what, I can leave that last key up value there and just always do that too for now, just to keep that one working. Shoot. Okay, so then what we can do up in here is on the menu is we start listening for, so this is basically like our draw here. Clear it, we cover it all out. We set the position of where we're on in the menu, and then we go through and finish all that out. So then what we do is say, and we want to be able to redraw, so we would say our input key up buffer equals new Q. I'm not input key up buffer dot any sleep one. And I think we get rid of this loop. And we get rid of this. Then we say we process through each of them. So technically we could feed a bunch of stuff in here, which would be, I guess, maybe... Well, we can break on the first successful one that we come in contact with. So keeping those breaks in there that we had. Oh, shoot. Let's just enter. Yeah. That breaks us out of this, which runs until the selection is not, or while the selection's whatever. And we'll clear our key up buffer. Oh. Again, I'm thinking of better ways to structure these things now that these patterns are starting to emerge. Okay, so if I run this, I press enter, test, press enter, it's good. Ah! It's still doing the same thing. It's because that key up event is happening, which is so weird. Because it has to happen twice for this to work now. Because we're creating a new buffer here. So pause happens. We have the... Oh, I see. We're using a different one in here. So we'll use the key up buffer as well. Instead of the input buffer. And maybe I should just be using the key up buffer as best I can. But and if key equals keys dot enter. All right, let's try that again. Best enter. Good. No, it's back to being bad again. Damn it. Sorry. So I press enter and then and it's because I'm using like this finishes at the moment that I hit this enter right here. Well, now I could just use this input buffer purely for non-control characters, and wire up the keys directly. So that would be like I would do the same thing I was doing on the other page, which would be input buffer and then also key up buffer. Well, input buffer. Okay, let me finish up getting this this bug fixed, and I'll come right up, okay? Alright, love you. Key up buffer dot any. Or no. What am I talking about here? Sorry, let me see here. Well, input buffer count is greater than 0 dot any. We go through and do. Okay, so this is processing. I gotta rethink this from the ground up then. So we're just gonna change this from while we're not done. Then what we're going to do is say if input, or sorry, key up buffer dot any and not, and which can't happen here, but so now it's an end. So then I go key up buffer dot deck, and then I have to interpret the two that I care about right now. If well, I'll just do it because I only care about the two. It equals enter. Then what I need to do is execute write char. I need to put the new line in there to get me to the next line. And then I will end. That's all good. These are control characters, so so I go through the key buffer first. I say da 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 da, else if next equals keys dot backspace, or it should be back, I assume. Then I have to do this. Oh, I do render this false here. That's interesting. And I do that. So then I come down into here, and this is just all gone. Okay, that gets me out of that loop. This loop has to run outside of all of this, or inside all of this, which means I'm running two loops. Oh, a double not end. Ha. Okay. So we get rid of a layer here. That's why you try to keep your code short, so you can actually see when those things kind of happen. All right, so we start up, we set those, we have to set our buffers back, key up buffer equals null. Okay. While we're not done, I'm just gonna kind of mess with this stuff here. We sleep for a second. We increment the cursor blink. We clear the key up buffer. We clear the input buffer. And then we blink the cursor. And then we come back around. I'm skeptical this will work nicely the first time, but let's try it. So hello world, name. Hello Sean, enter. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to have happen. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so that like input buffer stuff seems to work a lot better than dealing with either the keyboard events directly by looking at state or dealing with that input buffer directly. So that's all good. Yeah. Let me try making, I want to try, since I've got this now, like this. Oh, you know what I should do? What happens when it wraps like that? So if I go to the end, see, like, it's really not working. So that is something I'm going to fix next time, probably. The other thing I need to probably figure out is that how I'm going to interpret the Python continuations. So let's take a look here at my OS. So if you look at how I've got the menu created here, like you use these backspaces in Python, or these backslashes, to indicate that you're to indicate that you are going to the next line without, like, it's saying, hey, this command continues on the next line. Then you kind of, it ignores white space and stuff. I wonder, should I have that little colon in the front of it or not? And then in terms of longer programs, which I haven't, actually, let's test that quick. So as soon as I hit 10 lines, it should start to, yeah. So it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I go down here and you can see it. My logic is slightly messed up there. And so I need to say, when I cursor down, I increment the line, I go, so I'm saying if the cursor line is greater than the top, plus the edit range rows. I think if I just do, no. Oh, it'd be greater than or equal to. You can hear that snorting, that's my dog. Yeah, I'll have to figure this out later. But yeah, that's a little annoying. And then if I backspace like that, it shouldn't just move up, it should also cursor me up in a way that knows to kind of like bring the screen back together. But I mean, it's sort of working. You can, oh, and then repeat too. So if I like hold down the thing, because I've got it down, the key up events don't happen. So there isn't like a state. So maybe I should be doing something more with the key down state instead of just key up. I need to rethink all of the keyboard input probably, but maybe that's like a phase 2 or something, because you can kind of get around right now. The other thing that I would like to do is figure out just some very, very basic syntax highlighting, which shouldn't be difficult because the tokens in this aren't that hard. I should be able to actually probably run the execute like a basic Python like so basically the thing would be any line that starts with that gets a color. Any keyword that I find that's def is a color. Whiles and ifs and any keywords that I can tokenize out get drawn with those colors. And then any identifier function names like this that I'm defining. Like that's like, this shouldn't be difficult. Strings shouldn't be difficult to parse out. It's single or double quotes, and then you go through. I've written like a C, or I've written a couple lexers before. I could probably find something to actually spit out the tokens, I'm guessing. Or maybe there is a way to, even with IronPython, to tokenize something and then interpret it. Tokenize string. Oh yeah, generate tokens. So, or I don't know if this is actually IronPython, but Anyways, I might be able to do something like that to get the syntax highlighting I want. So, but I think for now I'm going to call this good. I've got some other stuff to do, so let me go ahead and save this. Just take a look and make sure nothing in here looks too crazy. Yeah, I said I got to figure out the keyboard input better. So I might end up rewriting or doing some refactoring on a lot of these in the future. And edit got pulled out. In fact, you know, the OS part, it really doesn't make sense for me to have all of this in here anyways. I could probably just put it in the code like I did with the other one. And anyways, yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, all right. Needed. What did I do? Basic editor working. From a UX perspective or whatever, to or UI, there's no indicator as to how you actually complete, you know, editing. So if I'm coming in here and saying, you know, I want to edit this, how do you get out? It doesn't really tell you that you need to press escape. And that's not a paradigm that's really anywhere else in the code. So I'll probably have to get that around too. Yeah, still a lot of work to do on this, but yeah, you know what? Maybe I will just leave it so that the... Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've got to get that figured out. Okay, well, I'm going to take off. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.